welcome to another SUPboarder video. In this video, we're looking at quick release leashes and quick release belts. Really interesting subject, and we've got some SUPboarder readers here who have got a lot of experience with quick release belts to help talk us through some of the different types of belt that are available on the market. But not only that, what you might need to think about when you're buying them and how you need to set up your belt to use it in a safe and productive way. I'm very excited to welcome Donna and Johnny to the SUPboarder studio. The guys have very kindly agreed to have a chat today. First off, I want to introduce these guys. So Johnny, you've been paddling a long time, haven't you?
Yeah, a few years now.
A few years. And where have you been generally paddling?
So it's generally been inland, so rivers like the Thames. Yeah. We've done quite a bit on the Wye, so more fast flowing rivers. Yeah. And then just general stuff like canals.
Yeah, and you've always been using quick release leashes since day one, haven't you?
Since 2017, late 2017, I started I heard of them and then just thought, why not? Yeah. They ticked all of the boxes for me. Yeah. So.
And what about yourself, Donna? Tell us about your paddling.
So I've been paddling since about 2019, started off very much just inland-based rivers, canals, reservoirs. So most of my paddling is inland. I have done now a few sea paddles here and there, so I'm getting more experience, but generally inland. I've always used a waist belt ever since I started paddling, but some of the issues that I've had, certainly with waist belts, is actually just getting them to fit you.
The quick release belt, quick release leash thing has come from inland paddling. There's certainly a lot of places where you might use them on the ocean. Yeah. But really the big chat around quick release belts and leashes started inland.
Yes, it started, the whitewater guys started using them, and I think people on rivers that weren't as fast thought, well, that's better than my ankle leash or something. So I'll wear that, and now these companies have started developing belts not for whitewater but for general use, which is really good. Absolutely.
Now before we get really into it, you might not even know what a quick release belt or leash is. If you don't, make sure you check out our SUP Safe series and specifically the video on leashes, where we talk around when you might be considering wearing a quick release belt. Let's get into it then. So we've been looking at these today, and we've kind of put them into some groups, haven't we? So yes. First off, I've got this one. So Johnny, can you tell me what that is?
That is a quick release leash.
So why is that?
This will replace your normal coiled leash. So you would attach it to the board as per usual, either with the Velcro or with the string. And then you've got your carabiner that will attach to your PFD straps or something like that on your person. And then if you come into any sort of trouble and need to release, you just pull that.
Perfect.
And you're separated from the board. So that's a quick release leash. These are very good.
Very simple.
Yeah.
It's quite low clutter, isn't it?
It's
quite clean.
And it's a really nice. It's a good thing about these is it's a really nice clean release, which you sometimes don't get with some others that we've discussed.
Okay, yeah. So that leads us quite nicely onto quick release belts, which are a bit different because the belt, it doesn't have a leash, it's a belt that you might use your existing leash on.
Yes.
So, and we've got a few different types here, haven't we?
Yeah.
So shall we talk about probably the simplest ones first?
Yeah.
So we've got here one from Red Paddle Co, which is relatively simple.
Yeah, very minimalist.
Yep.
Normal webbing type, although this webbing is quite thin, which is nice.
So these belts will go around your waist.
Yep.
You loop it in, tighten it up, and then attach your leash to the point on the back.
Yeah. So if you've still got your normal ankle leash, then it would go round. You would feed it under there.
Yep.
If you happen to buy it with something like your nice quick release leash, you could carabiner onto there, and you've now got two different points to quick release from. But yeah, so this is your normal basic quick release belt.
Okay, and there's another example here, which is actually your leash, isn't it, Donna?
Yeah.
So this is one that you've, I believe had custom built.
That was made, yes. So it's very simple, just similar to that one with the webbing, but you've got just the neoprene.
Just for a bit of comfort.
But this, again, the same quick release pull system.
So the interesting thing about these ones is that they have one point which you can release.
Just one point.
Now, which is great, but sometimes when you're paddling, that leash might twist around.
Yeah, your belt can twist around you, and all of a sudden, where you normally pull in, is round your back.
Yes, these 4 here are slightly different because they all have 2 points which you can pull.
Yes.
So should they spin around, you're more likely in that sort of panic stage when you're going to want to use these to be able to find the quick release toggle. So there's a few different types here. Palm, peak, and loom, which is one we've just had sent to us recently. This one though is slightly different because it actually has a secondary purpose having those 2, doesn't it? Now, one of the issues that people have with belts is getting them the right size, because it's very important to make sure your belt isn't too long, which we'll come on to later. But this belt works really well for you, doesn't it, Donna, because of the double
Yeah, I think it's
toggle.
Brilliant. Because of the double toggle and the fact that it's actually quite a simple belt, really, quite like the other ones. Not only does it tighten, and I guess would probably be really suitable for kind of any like size, you can really kind of adjust it to your size, and you've still got the double quick release if you need to just pull it, and it comes off super easy. Yeah.
Amazing, yeah. So that's a really interesting belt that's just come out, new design that has that double point has a kind of dual purpose.
Yeah.
It helps you size it correctly, but it also gives you that redundancy, that extra things to pull. These belts, I think, Johnny, you had some thoughts on where these have developed from and where they've come from. They weren't necessarily designed specifically for paddleboarding.
They're guide belts, and they were designed to carry throw lines on this bit. And what we've done as paddleboarders is just clipped into them instead.
Kind of adopt it. You put your normal leash on that part,
leash on that,
and then you put the rest of it around your waist.
And that way you're getting 2 points to release,
Yeah.
Which is really handy. Where these fall down and where that belt is good is where this fits on me beautifully, fits on me lovely. When I give it to Donna,
but you just can't get them tight enough without, I mean, it all rucks up and it's just not quite.
So actually, to suit a wide range of paddlers, the companies that are making these have to think a little bit innovatively to make sure that they'll fit a wide number, which is where this has come in.
Yeah.
One belt doesn't necessarily fit all.
No, it'd be nice to have at least 2 sizes to cover the range.
Okay, that's really interesting, because do you see that at the moment in the market? Multiple sizes of these types of belts, these padded belts?
I haven't as yet.
Either.
No.
I've never seen one size.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you've had to sort of custom build your own to
and that one's great because of where the padding is. I guess where these ones, they're great because they've got so much padding on them, but maybe it's just reducing where you need them, so that you can still have the use of the actual important part, which is the actual quick release itself.
Okay, so a few different types of belt there. What are your observations about what works, what doesn't work, what works better with these particular belts? So I particularly can see lots of different sort of thicknesses and smoothness of webbing.
Yeah.
How does that affect how these quick release belts work?
So I used to have a normal belt like this, and then when I found the peak, the smoothness just made the release a lot quicker.
Yeah, just less friction.
Less friction, but also clipping in was so much easier. Because what you can find on some of these belts is, especially with these thicker materials, is that sometimes when you clip in, it does.
Doesn't fully clip.
No, it doesn't feel quite right, and there's a slight worry that if there was a bit of force on there, it might just release itself. Whereas these ones, when you clip in, they're just you feel that click. You can tell it's clipped in.
Gives you some confidence that it's actually in the right place. The gear is SUP in the right way. Okay, so there's definitely some different types of material, and from your experience, you've seen how that smoothness, that reduction in friction can just help it release better, because obviously if you're in the situation where you do need to pull your quick release, you want it to release.
You want it to release, yeah.
And it also leads on to a really, really critical point, I think, about once you've bought your leash, do you just go out and use it?
No.
Okay. Let's talk through perhaps on this belt. What would you do when you bought that belt to fit it to you?
So obviously once you've got it the right way up and attached it to yourself, and you've got it where you think would be suitable and maybe easy to pull as well if it's fully adjustable, you would need to trim off the ends so that when you're releasing it, if I was to do it now, there's too much material for it to just come off.
You could almost get a knot in that, or it could be tucked down the belt, or you might have tucked it down to keep it tidy.
Whereas if there's just like kind of a small amount either side and you release it, it will come out super quick, easy, and you'll be able to just take it off. So
it just ensures that it achieves what it's supposed to ensure.
Yeah.
And really encouraging to see on the red paddle code quick release, which is one of the simplest ones we've got, gives you a warning. Webbing strap must be trimmed to fit to your body before you use it, which is great from those guys. Really, in summary, you've got to fit it to your body. Your quick release leash is going to be your quick release leash. It's not something you can give to your mate.
Personal equipment.
Any other tips for how you would fit that belt to you?
When you get your belt, if you put on all your winter clothes and then fit it around you and trim it, that will cover you for winter. And like I've done with this belt, that will also be perfectly acceptable for summer as well, and the tag is not too long.
Yeah.
So
you're leaving about 3 or 4 inches out, and that will be okay for your winter.
Yeah.
And maybe you might have a winter belt and a summer belt if you're paddling in really cold environments.
Yeah, if you're in a massive dry suit and stuff, then you might have to do that. And if that's what you need to do for safety, that's what you do.
So that discussion around fitting your belt to your person is really interesting, because there's one belt that we haven't talked about, which is this belt, which is from Palm. This is a new belt, but interestingly, this one you don't have to trim.
No.
And it's clever. It's based on a lot of the research they've had, and probably the feedback they've had based on maybe people not understanding that they do need to trim it.
Yeah.
So how does this one work?
So this one, you've actually, as you just clipped in, you've actually got a proper belt clip. So that's how you clip in and out all the time. You've got your adjustable strap there. So it doesn't matter summer or winter, you can just adjust it to the clothes you're wearing. But the best bit is that they've pre-cut the tab to where they deem it's safe. And the best release, and so you never have to worry about, if I cut it too short, is it too long?
Doesn't matter if you're wearing more clothes.
No, and that will just release straight away. It's a really good, really well thought out design.
Yeah, it's a nice product. It's developed from this first generation belt, I believe. It's got the same. And
you've got a second quick release there as well.
You've got, if it does twist around on your body, you've got a second thing to pull. You've also got this pocket on it.
You have.
Now, what do you think about pockets on these belts?
I don't have an issue with pockets. That's a really nice low profile one. I don't have an issue with pockets. If it gets in your way, then don't buy a belt with a pocket. But I've worn it with PFDs and I haven't found it got in the way.
I suppose might that catch on anything as the quick release belt goes. There's a school of thought that says that may be
That
at
might
higher risk.
happen if you was on if you was on a different belt, but with these little, there's such little there
Yeah.
that belt's going.
Yeah.
And also, there's no guarantee that your PFD is going to have a pocket.
Yeah.
So you might, that could be an emergency pocket for an inhaler or anything.
Yeah, so there is some benefits to having it,
Yeah.
but I think you've got to understand the type of risks that you might be introducing if you do have these extras
Yes.
on your key piece of safety equipment.
Yeah.
But it's also got this extra piece,
Yes, it has.
which is very interesting, because actually this belt with this part attached to it is actually more suitable for white water, isn't it?
Yes. Personally, when I have done white water, the belt has always gone around your chest. It makes it super quick releasing, and if you do get tangled, a wave comes over your head and gives you an air pocket to breathe.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's around your waist, it's not as
Can
good.
go suck your head under, can't it?
Yeah, but this is extremely close to white water because we've got these fail safes built in, and there's two of them on this, both in the form of adjustable Velcros. So depending on the type of water you're in, so if it's looking quite rough, you want to make sure that you definitely wasn't going to get tangled. You can set these, and they've got lots of little different points to set them on. Set it, you don't have to worry about releasing yourself because
It'll do it for you.
It'll do it for you.
So that's maybe more suitable in white water where you might not be able to activate your quick release belt because you might get knocked out, or you might be
possibly knocked out, possibly entangled, and maybe you're hanging onto a branch for safety and you
haven't got a hand to be able to.
Yeah, so
they're kind of automatic releases to get you away from that board, much more suited for the white water.
You just have to understand how to set them up and for
what type of paddling you're going to do. Yeah, and that probably comes from experience, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
if you set it up wrong and you're just paddling a normal river, and like most people, say you're getting out at the riverbank and you pull your board up with your leash, you might pull it up, release it,
floats
and
off into the distance.
Yeah.
Okay, so some really interesting insight and some understanding about how you need to think about purchasing and then setting up your quick release belt or leash. What about the other safety equipment you use with that? So inflatable PFDs and PFDs. What do you guys do when you're on the water?
Basically, most of the stuff inland, we will use a normal PFD. So like these two. And then when we come onto coastal waters, most of the time we use an inflatable PFD because there's nothing to get in your way, and they're just minimal. And they're really good for what they do. Yeah,
so it kind of depends. How to choose the right PFD really depends on a lot of different factors: where you're paddling, the type of area you're paddling, the legislation in that area. Our SUP Safe series and the PFD video will give you a lot of insight into making those right decisions. But I suppose to some extent, it's a little bit of a grey area about using inflatable PFD waist belts with quick release leashes and belts.
Yes, it's another thing where you just need to set it up properly. Some people feel that it's maybe too much clutter around one waist, but it is quite simple. So I'm going to put my waist belt on, get that fitted snugly, clip on, and then I'm going to put the inflatable PFD above the waist to make sure that it's clear if I have to pull it.
Yeah, and if you correctly set up your waist belt with the small end tab, there's much less chance of that tail getting caught on your inflatable PFD
Yeah,
waist
it
belt.
really shouldn't get caught.
Yeah, so because I mean there are some warnings on these not to use them with inflatable belts. As I say, I think it's a bit of an area because quick release belts and leashes are quite a new thing at the moment.
It is
in
still,
paddleboarding. I
yeah.
think there's a little bit of exploring to do there, and perhaps there's improvements in products that could be made to ensure that we don't get any problems.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so. I think even just, you know, when you're putting it on, some people might put it up the wrong way. They might not quite fully understand where, you know, they should put things, and just really making sure that perhaps there's like a fail-safe guide, that there's certain places you can clip on, or maybe some instructions on them of how best to use them.
Yeah,
would just be a really nice, clear way.
I think on the Spin Lock Alto, which is a really nicely designed little inflatable PFD, one of the things that we highlighted is that you might accidentally clip it onto your inflation point because it's a little
because
tab.
It's a small tab here. You certainly wouldn't want to clip it around that because you would never be able to pull it off.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
would be
So we want some of those mechanisms to be improved, really, so you can't mess it up as a paddler. So you know, because we're all just in a rush to get out paddling, aren't we?
And or just not, you know, you're late on the water and you're desperately trying to get on, and then all of a sudden you've clipped your leash around here and you can't pull it off.
Yeah, and
you could find yourself into difficulty.
Yeah.
So it's just really thinking about it.
Yeah.
Thinking about what you're doing and why you're doing it before you get on the water.
Absolutely.
Like that belt's really, you could literally have a specific hoop to clip something like your quick release leash on.
Yeah.
That would be really good.
Okay, so you've got your quick release belt. What should you be doing the first time you go paddling, or even before you go paddling with that belt?
What I do is once you've cut the belt to size, you go and attach it to your board on land, attach your leash on, put the belt on, and what I like to do is you walk to the front of the board until you get a nice tension on. Without looking at the belt, you reach down and pull it to make sure it's releasing really nice and not entangling on anything, and that you can find it without looking for it.
Yeah.
And
it's just get yourself familiar with your safety equipment.
Yeah, I always have my buckle on the left hand side, and I can find that without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
So some people might not have a preference. Some people might like to release with their right. It's just getting so comfortable with that belt that you never have to think about it.
Yeah.
It's there and you can release.
Yeah, I think the key message is make sure you know how to use your safety equipment, and make sure you know how hard you've got to pull it, like what type of how it feels. And with these things, it's really simple to do. Just get familiar, know where it's going to be, know what happens if it's twisted round, perhaps.
Yes.
How it's going to feel different, because you know, you can almost guarantee that when you do need to use these things, it won't quite be as expected. So you just need to have a good understanding of it. So yeah, just don't go out and buy your quick release leash and use it and just plug it in and go. Actually know how it works, because it's there for a really important reason.
Yeah, the more comfortable you get with it, the better they perform, because you're never having to think about it.
Yeah.
And especially with the twisting, that's where the 2 releases come in handy, because there's always one to hand. In the winter time, when you're wearing the winter clothes, go and do it again. Make sure it's not catching on anything. It takes 2 seconds to walk to the front of your board and just release, and then you know that what you're wearing is not impeding the function of the belt.
Absolutely, I think that's really wise words. So thank you very much for your time today, guys. Some really interesting insight into the different types of belts there, what you need to think about when you're buying them, and how you need to set them up before you first use them. Quick release belts are a really interesting topic. Certainly more people need to have awareness of using them, and we're really grateful for you giving your time and your experience to help spread it to our community.
That's okay, you're welcome.